my girlfriend whispered. I did it for us. You were too weak to get promoted on your own. I cut her off and walked away. Days later, she was screaming in HR after getting exposed. They always say hard work pays off. And for a long time, I believed that. I gave up weekends, skipped holidays, watched my friends start families while I was stuck in airports and meetings. All because I thought I was building something solid, for me, and for Kayla, my girlfriend. We've been together for years, living together for 2. She always told me how proud she was. Said she respected my hustle. She called me her future husband, in front of everyone. And I thought, yeah, we're building a future together. But turns out, while I was grinding for that promotion, she found her own way to speed things up. And the way I found out. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I'm 31, corporate sales, been climbing the ladder for almost a decade. And I've seen backstabbing at work, but never expected it to come from home. This is the story of how the person I trusted most thought sleeping with my boss was helping my career. Before we get into it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. You're not gonna want to miss how this one unfolds. Now look, I'm not some rookie. I know how corporate works. People play dirty. You expect it at the office. You don't expect it when you come home at night. That's supposed to be your safe zone, right? And Kayla, she played the role perfectly. She'd ask me about work, tell me she was proud I didn't play politics like the others. She even cooked dinner when I got home late, rubbed my shoulders while I vented about office drama. Every time I told her I was getting closer to the big promotion, she'd smile, pour me a drink, and say, I knew you'd get there, babe. You always do. And I ate it up like a fool. What I didn't know back then. She was already having private, career discussions with my boss behind my back. And I mean private in every sense of the word. But you know when something starts to feel just a little off? It started small. She suddenly got real friendly with my boss's wife at the company events. She knew details about office stuff I hadn't told her yet. I remember one night I asked her, half joking, You got a direct line to my boss or something? She just laughed and said, Babe, you talk in your sleep. I hear everything. And I believed it. Because when you trust someone, you don't go looking for reasons not to. You just keep grinding. And that's exactly what I did, until that dinner happened. But that dinner, man, that was the first time my gut really started yelling at me. Company annual banquet. You know the vibe, suits, fake laughs, people trying to look richer than they are. Kayla came with me like always, looking perfect, like she belonged in that world more than I did. Half the night, I barely saw her. She was floating between my boss's table, his wife, a few of the partners. Like she knew everyone better than me. At one point, my boss's wife walks up to me, smiling way too wide, and says, You've got yourself a real asset there. Kayla's been so helpful with Richard lately. I kind of froze for a second. Helpful? With what exactly? I played it cool, smiled back, and said, Yeah, she's great. I'm lucky. But inside? That didn't sit right. After that, little things started stacking up. She started dressing a little different, not for me, for someone. She suddenly understood all the corporate politics I used to vent about. And every time I brought something up, she'd cut me off like she already knew how it worked. Like one night I was telling her how I was getting squeezed on commissions and she goes, Well, babe, you know how these bonus structures are. You need to make yourself indispensable. And I just stopped and looked at her like, Since when are you the expert on sales comp plans? She laughed and said, Babe, I listen when you talk. Maybe you don't realize how much you share. Again, I brushed it off. That's the thing about trusting someone too much. You start ignoring your own instincts. And my instincts? They were screaming. But I kept pushing through. Until one night, my boy Marcus, one of the only people at work I actually trust, pulls me aside after a late client dinner. He's got this look on his face, like he's debating whether to even say it. I'm like, Spit it out, man. He sighs, looks around, and drops it. Bro, you might want to have a talk with Kayla about how tight she's getting with Richard. My stomach dropped. What do you mean tight? Marcus shook his head. I mean I've seen them having closed-door meetings. A lot. And not about work. The way she looks at him. Man, it ain't right. I tried to play it cool, I really did. I said, You sure? That's a serious thing to throw out. Marcus didn't even blink. Look, you're my boy. I wouldn't say it if I wasn't sure. Just watch your back, alright? That night I didn't sleep. And that's when I finally stopped ignoring the signs. I needed to know. And what I found, yeah, it made everything snap into place real fast. You know how it is, man. Sometimes you feel it before you know it. That gut itch you try to ignore, but it just keeps pulling at you. At first, it was small things. We're sitting at home, watching some dumb crime show we always watch together. But her phone kept buzzing nonstop. And every time it lit up, she'd flip it face down like it was no big deal. I didn't say anything right then. Just grabbed my beer, kept my eyes on the screen, but my mind? My mind was already connecting the dots. Few days later, I stay late at work, intentionally. As I pull out of the parking garage, I see her car. Not at home. Not at a friend's place. Parked right outside my boss's office building. And it's almost 9 p.m. So I call her, real casual. She picks up after a couple rings, all cheerful like nothing's off. She goes, "Hey babe, just having drinks with the girls. Everything okay?" I smiled, kept my voice calm. "Of course. Have fun." But inside? I already knew. And from that night on, I started playing long game. That's the thing about betrayal, don't react. You collect. You build your case. She started getting sloppy. New perfume out of nowhere. Designer bags we couldn't afford even with my full paycheck. She'd say, "Oh, it was on sale." Sure it was. Meanwhile, my boss started acting cocky too. Throwing little digs at me during meetings, like, "Let's hope your team doesn't underperform again this quarter, Jake." I held my ground. Smiled back. But inside? Fire. One time after a meeting, I pulled him aside. Looked him dead in the eye and said, "You sure you're keeping this professional? Starting to sound a little personal lately." He chuckled that fake-ass chuckle, waved it off. "Just motivating you, buddy. No offense." I kept my face calm, but cold. "Don't worry. I'm growing exactly where I need to." He didn't like that much. A week later, Kayla started dropping little hints. Talking about how maybe I should be aiming higher, how promotions are for those who adapt. She said, "You know, babe, you're brilliant. But sometimes you gotta be flexible, if you want to move up." I didn't even blink. I knew exactly what she meant. She was setting up her defense in advance. Making it seem like it was all for us, for my career. Like I was supposed to feel grateful for what she was doing behind my back. I looked at her and calmly said, "I value my dignity more than a job title." She just smiled like I was being naive. "The world's not that simple, sweetheart." That's when I knew for sure. This wasn't some one-time mistake. She made a choice. And I was already preparing my move. The more I paid attention, the uglier it got. And you know what really messes with your head? It wasn't just the cheating. Nah. It was the way they both thought I was too stupid to see it. Like they were smarter, slicker. My boss, let's call him Derek, started getting bolder at work. Slipping my projects to other managers. Cutting me out of meetings I was supposed to lead. And Kayla? She'd always be ready with some weak explanation. "Maybe they just forgot to loop you in. You know how chaotic corporate is, babe." Yeah. Chaotic. Real convenient, right? And every time I tried to bring up the shift at work, she'd flip it into a motivational speech. "You can't take things so personally. If you're ever gonna make VP, you gotta learn to play the game." That's when it really started to hit me. This wasn't just betrayal behind closed doors. She was actively trying to reprogram me to accept it. To make me think I should thank her for her little side arrangement. And you know what? That disgusted me more than anything. I remember one night, we're having dinner with her friends, corporate types, all pretending to be each other's biggest supporters while stabbing backs for bonuses. Her friend Laura, real smug, goes, "Jake, you're lucky to have Kayla. She's doing everything she can to help your career. Not every woman would sacrifice like that." I put my fork down, looked Laura dead in the eye and said, "Yeah. Sacrifice is a funny word for some people." Kayla shot me a look across the table, you know the type. That tight smile women give when you're getting too honest in front of company. Later that night, she tried to scold me like I was some kid acting out. "Jake, why'd you have to embarrass me like that? Laura was just trying to be supportive." I didn't yell. Didn't even raise my voice. I just stared at her and said, "If that's what support looks like, I must have misunderstood the entire definition of partnership." And I left it at that. But inside, inside I was fuming. Not because I didn't expect it, I'd already accepted who she really was, but because she thought she could guilt-trip me on top of everything. That's when I started building my file. Quietly. Carefully. Emails. Credit card statements. Work schedules. Even pulled a couple favor calls to IT to track office badge swipes. I didn't need to catch them anymore. I needed to bury them. You want to play corporate games behind my back? Fine. Let's see how well you both survive when the chessboard flips. And trust me, it was about to flip hard. Saturday rolled in like nothing was wrong. She was up early, humming in the kitchen, making pancakes like some perfect suburban scene. I sat there sipping my coffee, watching her. And I couldn't help but think, how many nights did she walk out of our bed and straight into his hotel room? How many times did she fake that tired smile while lying to my face? But I kept it cool. I had work to do. She asked if I wanted to hit the farmer's market with her. I said, "Nah, you go ahead. I've got some things to catch up on." She kissed me on the cheek and walked out like she didn't have a damn care in the world. The second that door closed, I got to work. Grabbed my laptop, pulled the synced cloud backups from our phones, cross-checked locations, calls, text history. Man, she was sloppy. You don't leave breadcrumbs when you're cheating with your boyfriend's boss. But she did. Texts at midnight. "Can't wait to see you again." Heart emojis. Freakin' amateur hour. The worst one? "He still thinks you're just mentoring me. You're brilliant." I took a breath, saved every damn screenshot, and emailed everything to myself. Then I reached out to a buddy of mine, HR at another branch. Told him I needed a quiet coffee off company grounds. No questions. Just meet me. That Sunday we sat in a tiny diner, both with black coffee. I laid it out, clean and cold. "Look, man," I said, "I'm not here to cause drama. But you're gonna want to see this before the board does." He scrolled through everything, his face going pale. "Jesus, man, this is bad." "Yeah. Real bad." I wasn't even angry at that point. You hit a stage beyond rage where everything is just methodical. Every piece of evidence was lined up. Every step calculated. This wasn't about emotions anymore. This was about strategy. Monday morning? That was the beginning of the end for both of them. I saved that file in a safe place, because I knew this wasn't just some petty relationship drama anymore. This was a serious game now. In the next few days, I acted like nothing had happened. She made her morning coffee, asked me how my day was, smiled like everything was perfect, laid her hand on my shoulder like a loving girlfriend. And every single time I looked into her eyes, I didn't see her anymore. I saw that entire message thread. I saw my boss calling her my girl. I saw them laughing about their next hotel meetup. She had no clue I was already deep in the game. I wasn't rushing, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't breaking anything. I wanted it to collapse properly. And you know what the most ironic part was? 3 days later, my boss calls me into his office. He's sitting there, relaxed, smiling like nothing's going on, doing his little fake casual tone. "Hey buddy, got a minute?" I walk in, sit across from him. He opens with his performance. "I've been thinking. You've done solid work, but leadership is about presence, you know? Authority. I think for now you should focus more on support roles." I listen. I lock eyes with him. He goes, "You're just not quite leadership material, at least at this point." I smile, dead calm. I reply, "Sure. Whatever's best for the company." He blinked. That shook him, because he clearly expected me to panic or beg. But in my head, I'm thinking, man, you have no damn idea how deep you're already buried. And while he's sitting there preaching his career development speech, my little USB drive with all the evidence was already with my friend in HR, quietly preparing a report for the board of directors. Because when things break, they break big. After the meeting I walked out, drove home. She was on the couch with a glass of wine. Smiling. "Rough day?" she asked. I smiled right back. "Nah. Office politics, you know how it is." She had no idea. I poured myself a whiskey, sat down, turned on the game, just waiting, because her clock was ticking. And that's when everything started. The next 72 hours felt like I was sitting in the eye of a hurricane. Calm on the outside, but I knew exactly how close we were to everything blowing up. HR was moving fast. They weren't playing around. My buddy there texted me just 2 words. "Board notified." That's when I knew the wheels were officially in motion. But I didn't change my face at home. Same routine. She'd ask if I wanted dinner, we'd watch some dumb show together, she'd snuggle in close like nothing was wrong. Every time she smiled at me like that, it was wild. Because she really thought she played me. She thought she was smart enough to pull this off and I was too blind or too weak to catch on. But I kept feeding her comfort because I wanted her completely blindsided when this hit. And then, Friday. My boss didn't even see it coming. I was sitting at my desk when security walked past me. Didn't say a word. Went straight into his office. Glass walls. Whole floor could see it. 2 HR directors, 1 board member, security standing behind. They shut the door. 10 minutes later they walked him out, briefcase in hand, face pale, sweating bullets, avoiding eye contact. And I just sat there, sipping my coffee, pretending like I was deep into some spreadsheet. When he passed my desk, I glanced up for half a second, just enough for him to see me give the smallest nod. That was it. After years of this clown acting like he was untouchable, he was done. But the real show? That started when I got home. She was sitting on the balcony, wine again, waiting for me like always. Smiling like she had it all figured out. "Hey babe, good day at work?" she asked, trying to sound sweet. I stepped out, lit a cigarette, and casually dropped it. "Yeah, actually. Eventful. Guess who won't be coming in Monday?" Her face twitched for a second. "What do you mean?" I turned and looked her dead in the eye. "Your little boyfriend got walked out today." She went pale. Dead silent. Eyes darting. Mouth slightly open like she wanted to say something but couldn't find any words that wouldn't make it worse. Then she tried it. Full damage control mode. "Listen, I swear it wasn't serious. I was only trying to help you. He said he could guarantee your promotion. I did it for us." And there it was. That pathetic justification I expected all along. I just stared at her. "You did it for us? You slept with my boss because I wasn't moving fast enough for you? You thought selling yourself would somehow help me?" She started crying, mumbling about how she regretted it, how she only wanted the best for us. And man, standing there listening to her sob about how she meant well while the reality of what she did was crushing her, it was almost satisfying. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I just calmly said, "You know what's funny? You thought you were playing chess. But you've been a pawn this whole time." She broke down completely right there on the balcony. And trust me, we weren't even close to done yet. She was still sitting there, face wet, mascara running, trying to hold herself together while the weight of what she'd done finally landed. I watched her closely, not because I needed to hear more lies, but because I wanted to see exactly how she'd spin it now that her safety net was gone. She wiped her face and tried again, voice shaking. I thought if I could show him I was willing to do anything to support your career, he'd see how serious we were. I didn't want to lose what we have." I almost laughed right there. The audacity. The delusion. She sat there talking about us, like we were some kind of team in this, like she was sacrificing for the greater good. And I just kept my voice calm, steady, because I wanted her to feel every inch of that cold distance between us. "You slept with my boss behind my back and convinced yourself it was some sort of twisted gift to me? You didn't do this for me. You did this for yourself. You wanted control. You wanted shortcuts. And you gambled with everything." She shook her head like a child caught lying, still trying to salvage something. "It was just one time." I cut her off immediately. "Stop. Don't insult me any more than you already have. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry your plan blew up." She opened her mouth again, but this time I raised my hand, just enough to make her stop. Silence hung heavy between us. The tension was thick, like you could feel the air vibrating. I stood there for a moment, then spoke even quieter. "You know, I actually feel bad for you. Because you really thought you were smarter than everyone in the room. You thought you'd play both sides. But now you don't have a career boost, you don't have him, and you sure as hell don't have me." And man, that moment hit her like a truck. She broke down full force, full on sobbing, chest heaving, hyperventilating right there on the balcony. It wasn't even crying anymore, it was full collapse. The kind of crying where someone realizes how badly they burned every bridge behind them. I let her sit there falling apart, while I calmly stepped inside, grabbed my jacket and keys, and headed for the door. As I reached for the handle, I heard her behind me, voice cracking between gasps. "Please don't leave, we can fix this. I'll do anything." I didn't even turn around. Just said, "You already did enough." And I closed the door behind me, leaving her out there with nothing but her guilt. The funny part? This was still just the beginning. Because the real fallout hadn't even fully landed yet. Walking out that door wasn't just leaving the apartment, it was stepping into phase 2. See, what she never understood was that while she was playing her cheap little backroom game with my boss, I was playing mine. I didn't just sit on that flash drive. I spent the last 2 weeks gathering everything: timelines, emails, texts, access logs, even the hotel receipts that were conveniently billed to the company's corporate account. Sloppy. That's what happens when people think they're untouchable. And while she was busy pouring him drinks in that hotel room, I'd already had 2 separate HR officers looped into back channels, both of whom were already whispering to legal. You don't climb in my company by playing dirty and think nobody's watching. And yeah, technically he was my boss. But the board? They don't give a damn about titles. They care about lawsuits, liabilities, and public image. So when I left the apartment that night, I didn't go to a buddy's place to cool off. I went straight to a private meeting scheduled with HR and legal counsel. Quiet office. Closed doors. Long folder laid out on the table. I remember sliding it across to them and saying real calm, "Everything you need's in there. Screenshots. Timestamps. Financials. Multiple violations." The VP of HR just stared for a moment before finally whispering, "Jesus Christ." I let them sit with it. Let the weight of what was about to come settle in. Legal guy asked me, "You prepared for how messy this is going to get?" I smiled. I'd been preparing for weeks. And right there, wheels started turning fast. By next morning, an emergency board meeting was scheduled. And here's where it got almost poetic. As they were all panicking behind closed doors trying to assess damage control, I still showed up to the office like any other Tuesday. Coffee in hand. Shirt pressed. Calm face. You should have seen my boss's face when he saw me walk by his office like nothing happened. His little arrogant nod, the fake grin, man was still thinking he had control of the room. Not for long. Around 3 p.m., his secretary came to his door, whispered something, and his face drained like someone pulled the life right out of him. HR was waiting for him. Full audit underway. Multiple complaints filed. Financial misconduct. Workplace policy breaches. Abuse of authority. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was a corporate nightmare for him. And the cherry on top? My girl, ex-girl now, she got dragged into the mess too, because part of the little hotel escapade involved misuse of company funds. The corporate card receipts tied them both together. You know what's worse for people like that? Not just losing their positions, but getting exposed in front of everyone they tried to step over. When I walked past her desk later that afternoon, she couldn't even look me in the eye. Pale. Shaking. Already knew the hammer was dropping. She tried to speak. You could see her mouth open slightly like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. I didn't stop. Didn't acknowledge her. Just kept walking like she didn't exist. Because at that point, she didn't. And by that evening, both their careers were dangling by a thread. You know what hits people harder than getting caught? When you make them sit in silence long enough to realize it's over before anyone even says the words. That's exactly where both of them were now. HR meetings weren't quiet anymore. Lawyers got involved, corporate auditors digging into every corner of his expenses. The hotel receipts? Stupid enough to bill some of it under. Client entertainment. His personal email? Even dumber, he was arrogant enough to use his company address for some of the little private exchanges. Meanwhile, I kept showing up to work every single day like clockwork, kept my head down, handled my projects, talked to my team like nothing was happening. And you know how people get curious real fast. You start noticing those little side glances in the break room, whispers in the hallway. The office grapevine works faster than any official report ever will. My coworker Mark pulled me aside one afternoon. We'd been cool for years. He leans in, lowers his voice, and goes, "Man, I don't know what's going on, but people are saying this is bad. For him. Like career-ending bad. Is it true?" I looked him dead in the eye, kept my tone flat. "I don't know, Mark. I just focus on my work." He shook his head, smirking, like he knew damn well I was sitting on a landmine. But I wasn't about to gloat. Not yet. That night, as I left the office, I got the call from HR. Simple. "You may want to be in the building tomorrow morning." That was it. No details. Just a tone that told me everything I needed to know. The final nail was about to drop. And sure enough, the next morning, corporate security was waiting at the front entrance. My boss, ex-boss, I guess, was walked out by 2 men in suits. He didn't scream, didn't resist, but you could see the panic in his eyes. That silent, wide-eyed look of a man realizing all his little power plays just got stripped overnight. Some of the junior staff stood frozen watching, pretending to work while sneaking glances. The HR director approached him at the door, handed him an envelope. Termination papers. Official. Clean. Legal had already locked down his accounts the night before. He was done. But the part that really twisted the knife? My ex, she thought she'd skate through this like collateral damage at worst. She was dead wrong. See, when you engage in misconduct involving a supervisor, you're not a victim, you're a liability. That afternoon, she got called into the same conference room. I wasn't there. Didn't need to be. But the aftermath? Word spread fast. She came out pale, hands shaking, clutching a manila folder, probably her severance terms and a non-disclosure agreement. Her little circle of office friends didn't even approach her. People scatter real quick when shit gets radioactive. She sat in the lobby for nearly 30 minutes, frozen, just staring at the wall like reality hadn't even caught up yet. I walked past once. She looked up, eyes glossy, almost desperate like she wanted me to stop. I didn't. Not a glance. Not a word. That door had been closed a long time ago. She made her choices. Now she gets to sit in the fallout. What made it worse for her? She thought sleeping with him was gonna secure her future. Instead, it detonated everything. And deep down, she knew I'd let it happen exactly like this. The fallout didn't stop there. That kind of mess never does. See, when you're playing games at work with someone who controls budgets, schedules, bonuses, hell, even promotions, you're not just screwing up a relationship, you're stepping into legal quicksand. HR had to go full damage control mode after they both got axed. Internal memos went flying, meetings behind closed doors, compliance reviews, the works. Meanwhile, I kept my head down and clocked in like nothing ever happened. People looked at me differently now, though. A few nods of respect. Quiet ones, but they were there. One of the directors, who never said much before, stopped me in the elevator one morning. "You handled yourself like a professional through all of this," he said. "A lot of people wouldn't have." I just nodded. No need for extra words. The funny part? She tried reaching out 2 days later. Of course she did. My phone lit up at 10:43 p.m., private number. Then again at 10:45. Left a voicemail too. "Can we please talk? You don't understand, it wasn't like that. I made a mistake." Right. A mistake that lasted for months behind my back while I paid half the rent and kept dinner on the damn table. I didn't respond. She kept calling. The next morning, 9 missed calls. She finally showed up at my apartment around 7:30 a.m., knocking, then banging, then crying loud enough the neighbors started looking out their windows. I opened the door for about 2 seconds, just enough for her to see I was standing there, then closed it without saying a word. That was it. I wasn't giving her the stage. And then it got worse for her. Her friends, the same ones who gassed her up when she first started messing around with my boss, they all started cutting ties real fast. Nobody wants to be associated with that level of stupidity once the consequences hit. 2 of them unfollowed her on socials within a week. One girl flat out texted me apologizing for not seeing the signs sooner. I didn't reply to that either. It wasn't about them anymore. Let them all scramble to protect their own reputations. What really sealed it was what happened at her parents' place. Apparently she tried to move back in after getting fired and dumped at the same time. Her father, who always thought she was some perfect little angel, finally snapped. "You burn every bridge you had, young lady," he told her. "Don't look at me to fix it." Word got back to me from a mutual friend who still works in the same corporate circle. And man, I'll admit, hearing that? Yeah, that one felt good. Not out of spite, out of closure. She burned everything she thought was untouchable. And when the dust settled, she finally realized that playing those kinds of games comes with a price. A price she never saw coming. When it finally blew up, honestly, I wasn't even surprised. The whole thing collapsed so perfectly, it almost felt like I was watching a movie I already knew the ending to. I mean, how did they even think this wouldn't catch up with them? It started early that morning, way before I even had my first sip of coffee. I was in the kitchen, pouring my mug, when my phone buzzed. Official email from HR. Subject line, ethics violation investigation opened. I read it once, twice, smiled a little. They were launching a full internal investigation. Conflict of interest, abuse of power, breach of company code. I sat down at my table, coffee in hand, just thinking. All right. Here we go. First one to start sweating was my boss, obviously. Exactly as I predicted. He came in like nothing was wrong at first, all smiles like his usual fake self. But HR had already pulled the receipts. The chat logs, the call records, hotel bookings with his company card, all of it laid out like a damn indictment. His face dropped when they started reading through it. I heard from my guy inside HR how he tried to spin it. "Look, it wasn't what it looks like. Everything was consensual. We're both adults. It's a private matter." Yeah, buddy. Keep talking. HR doesn't care about your private matters when you're using your power to sleep with subordinates. And then came her turn. And this is where things got interesting. See, weak people always crumble when the walls start closing in. She was called into HR the next day. I wasn't there, but my buddy who sat in on the meeting gave me the whole rundown afterward. She was crying almost the entire time, shaking, full-blown breakdown mode. First, she tried to deny everything. "We were just friends, it was nothing." Then they showed her the transcripts, the screenshots, the text where she literally wrote, "He promised your promotion was secured if I kept him happy." My buddy said she went pale when they read that one out loud. From there, she flipped. Full damage control mode. She threw my boss under the bus so fast it was almost impressive. She claimed he manipulated her, pressured her, that she never wanted to hurt me, that it was all his idea. Pure desperation. And you know what? HR didn't even blink. Because at that point, they already had everything they needed. She kept talking, hoping maybe playing the victim would soften the consequences. But HR isn't Reddit. They don't care about your sob story when there's hard evidence stacked on the table. After the interviews, the company wasted no time. My boss, suspended pending termination. She, placed on immediate leave while legal reviewed her contract for violations. And me? I just kept showing up every morning, sitting at my desk, sipping my coffee like nothing happened. People around the office started whispering, of course. You could feel the tension in the air. But nobody dared say anything to my face. The thing is, once you stay calm while the storm rages around you, people start to realize who really holds the cards. The fallout hit fast. HR wrapped up their investigation way quicker than I expected. I guess when you've got undeniable proof staring you in the face, there's not much left to debate. My boss got the axe first, full termination with cause. No severance, no golden parachute, just an escort out of the building with his sad little box of desk junk. I didn't even bother watching it happen, but word spreads quick in an office like ours. They said security walked him out through the lobby while a few people pretended not to stare, but everyone was staring. I don't know if he tried to look proud or if the reality finally crushed him as he hit those doors. Either way, he was done. My girlfriend, or ex, I should say, well, her crash came even harder. HR voided her contract entirely for misconduct. Not only did she lose her job, but word got out to some of the other firms in the industry. And let me tell you, our industry? Small. Very small. Nobody's rushing to hire someone who got exposed sleeping with an executive and trying to barter for career favors. Her reputation was pretty much radioactive overnight. But here's where it got even more pathetic. A couple days after everything blew up, she tried to text me. First it was some weak apology. Please, you have to understand. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was helping us. We were building something together. Building? Yeah. She was building herself a ladder to climb while stepping on my back. I didn't respond. She called. Left voicemails, started DMing me from burner accounts when I blocked her. Then came the most desperate one. Can we at least talk? Maybe rebuild? I still love you. Love? After she literally sold out our relationship for a promotion? Nah. I left her on read. Cold. And that's when she started showing up. First at my apartment door, crying, shaking. Then at my office building, waiting near my car. Her voice would crack every time she saw me. Please, just hear me out. Security had to remove her twice before she finally stopped showing up. Maybe she finally realized there wasn't going to be a second chance. Not with me. As for me, I didn't run around bragging or playing the victim. I handled my business. HR eventually offered me the promotion I should have had in the first place. I took it. New title, new salary, corner office, and most importantly, my dignity fully intact. The best part? I didn't have to lift a finger to destroy either of them. They did it all on their own. I just stayed patient. Sometimes you don't need to swing back. You just need to stand still and let them swing themselves straight into the wall.